right, so today we're going to do a little review of AutoCAD for some of my students. This will be their first project after the beginning of the summer. This is one of three parts that a subscriber requested. So we're going to use this because I think this is a really good part to relearn a lot of the basic skills we're going to need to succeed in AutoCAD moving forward. Now, a couple things to make note of. I'm calling this thing a bracket because that's what it says on the worksheet here. And it is in metric, all right, which is indicated right here. So I'm going to move this over. And I'm going to be using AutoCAD 2021. Don't worry, none of the commands I'm going to use are going to be anything that isn't available in the previous 10 to 15 versions of AutoCAD. But since we have it, I figured I'd use 2021 here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, okay, is when I hit New or Control N, I'm going to get this menu. I'm going to show you what to do in case you don't get this menu. So if you just installed a new version of AutoCAD, this isn't going to pop up. So I'm just going to load into it. It doesn't matter what my settings are right now. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up AutoCAD. You're going to start a drawing. Just use whatever default template it goes to, the ACAD drawing or whatever. And then type in Startup and hit Enter. And your value is going to be 3. So what you're going to do is you're going to change it to 1 and hit Enter. Now, when I close out of here and I start a new drawing here, you'll see I get this option. Now, the advantage of this is now I can very quickly switch between imperial and metric, use different wizards, some templates. I have some templates I've set up with students before. So I'm going to pick metric because we said it was a metric part. I'm going to hit OK. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn my grid on down here. You can hit F7 or you can click it. And then I usually like to just middle click, drag it so I can see a little bit better. Now, first thing I want to do in any drawing where I'm creating orthographic views, and as we can see from this one, we're going to create 2 views and then we're going to create a side view. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to identify what I need for layers. Okay, now my layers are going to be object lines for these darker lines, hidden lines, you can see I have some of those, center lines, okay, and then in addition to those, I don't see any phantom lines or anything like that, but in addition to those, I also need construction lines. Construction lines are going to be my guides that I turn off, because remember, if you've watched other videos of mine, I've mentioned how one of the great things of AutoCAD is that it develops a understanding of how the drafts people used to draw on the board. Okay, you draw light construction lines, right, and then you darken them to make them your object lines. You know, hidden lines were a little bit darker, but not much darker than a construction line. And then you go through and you'd erase your construction lines at the end. Now, we have the beauty of just turning the layer off. We don't even have to erase them, but we'll get to that in a second. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to go up to Layer Properties. I need to create some layers, okay? Now, my 0 layer is usually my object layer. If you want to create an object layer, you can, but you don't really have to. It's not required, but I usually use my 0 layer. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go New Layer. I'm going to name this next one Construction. There we go. I'm going to hit Enter, and now I'm going to double click on that layer. And I'm going to see if AutoCAD has like a nice construction line. Probably not. I'm probably just going to have to set it as gray. That's okay. So I'll hit Cancel, Cancel. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click this color. And I like to go with a nice gray for the construction line. That'll be fine. Line weight, if you wanted to, you could lower it a little bit so it doesn't print out. You could even set it as 0 if you wanted. But that's totally up to you. I'll just leave it at the default. That's fine. Okay, now I'm going to create a new layer. Why not? I'll create an object layer as well. So let's call it Object. We'll double click on this color again. Let's make our object lines a nice dark blue. That sounds good. Okay, right click, New Layer. Other one I said I needed, Hidden Lines. for that one, let's go with like a nice cyan maybe. Everybody likes a nice cyan. We'll double click on continuous. Now I'm going to have to load a hidden line in because I don't want a solid line for my hidden line. So I'm going to hit load. I'm going to go down to where I find hidden. And there's all different formats here. So like if you find one, you don't really like the spacing on it, you can always change it just by double clicking here. I'm just going to pick the default one. I'll mess with my line scale if it's messed up. I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to pick hidden. And you hit OK. Now that one's got a hidden line type. You can see that there. See if I can expand this out for everybody. Yeah, it's asking me to be accurate here. All right. So I've got some continuous lines, got some line weight stuff. I got some nice colors. Okay, and then the last one I needed, right click, new layer. You can also come up here and hit new layer. It's that one. Center line, very important for my circles. What do we want to make this center line? I don't know. Let's make it neon green. That sounds like a fun color. And let's double click on hidden. Now we're going to load in our center line. Same idea. Scroll down, center. There we go. Nice center pattern right there. You can see this is half times, 2 times. We'll go with the default. Make sure to pick center. Hit OK. Now I've got all my layers set up. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my construction lines. Okay, construction lines. Now, in order to draw the construction lines, we're going to create what's called an X line, which is an infinite line. You can find it in a couple places. You can go under here, construction line. It'll tell you the command is X line. If you watch my other videos, you know I am very pro commands. Okay, they are much, much faster than hunting around and clicking on the different parts of your screen. Okay, so I could type X line very quickly, hit enter. And now for my first one, this is what I like to do. It's to specify first point. Well, for me, I usually, if I don't have a border, if I'm just kind of learning how to create some views and stuff, I'm going to start from 0, 0. So I'm going to type 0, comma, 0, hit enter. Look at that. There's my construction line. The construction line's infinite because it's not actually going to be a line that means anything other than just as a guide. So what I try to do is I go down to here and I line it up with that, or I could also turn on ortho down here, which would then lock me to only be able to go like that. But I'm just going to move down to here till it lines up. Oh no, I turned ortho off. Now it doesn't believe me. So I'll turn it back on. I'll make a horizontal line. Okay. Now I'll hit space bar and space bar again, which will bring me back into that command. The space bar is a repeat command option. So 0, comma, 0 again. Now I want the vertical one, okay? So I'm going to go like that, all right? Now I'm going to hit escape. All right, now I have my construction lines, okay? Now why did I make those, okay? Here's why. Every view is going to have some type of origin, okay, that you think is most logical to start the view. Now for me, in the front view, or the primary view more specifically, because it may not be the front view, I usually like to start from the bottom left corner. Okay, and that just kind of places it nicely, and then if I want to put a border on, it's just a matter of moving my views around a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm now going to create different construction lines using the offset command, okay, to create these other edges. So let's start, okay, let's ignore all of the lines that aren't vertical, okay. So if I look at my vertical lines, I have this one on the end. I have then this one 10 meters or 10 millimeters over. Meters would be a heck of a lot more. 24 more over. 10 more over. Okay? And then I've got to get all the way to the end. And the way I find that out is I've got to do a little hunting. There's no dimension down here, which tells me it's probably on another view. So if I look to the top view, look at that. From the left to the right, my overall dimension, this is very well dimensioned, is 120. Okay? So let's create those lines first. I'm going to move this over. Don't worry, I'll tell you the lines we're going to do. But if you like, you could always back up the video and look at the dimensions yourself. My students will have that picture when they do this. So we're going to hit O for offset. Again, you can go up and click it up here, but this takes time. O, enter, is much faster. Okay. My first line was 10 over. Okay, so 10, enter. Click. click. All right. Now I'm going to hit space bar again. Okay. My next offset dimension was 24, so I'm going to go 24. Hit enter. I'm going to click my line. I'm going to move over to let it know to come this way. If I leave it over here, it's going to go the other way. And I'm going to click. Okay, there's my next one. Space bar again, right? Save time. Don't escape, retype it in, all that stuff. There's faster ways to do things. So we'll go 10 again. That was my next offset. Click, click. Okay. Now, space bar, or you could hit enter, enter would work too. All right, now my last one was 120. All right, so I'm going to go from here all the way over. There's the extent of my view. That's as wide as my view is going to be. Okay. Now, why do I care about these construction lines? Well, they're not only going to help me create this view, they are also going to help me create the top view, as well as this one won't help my right one quite as much, but it will help it to some extent. Okay. So I'll show you that when we get there. Now let's create these horizontal lines, okay? And one thing I do want to point out, if I was creating this on my own, without creating a tutorial video, I'm trying to walk everyone through, I would also create a vertical line for this corner right here too, because even though there's not a line here, there is a vertex here. There is a series of lines that are meeting and intersecting at that point. So let's create that now. There's no point in waiting. Okay, so let's go 45, click this, move it over. That looks like it was more than 45, so I better do it again. Go back and offset, 45, click, click. Okay. Now I'm going to get out of that. Now I'm going to create my horizontal lines. Let's take a look at where those transitions are. Okay, so my horizontal lines go up from the bottom. The next one up, this is a little tricky how they're dimensioning this actually. We have one down from the top that's 42. The overall height is 58. We have an angular dimension, so I'll show you how to figure that out in a bit. We have, let's see, we have a dimension. Oh, here we go. It was hidden down here. We have 6 up and then 40 up for that. Okay, and I'm going to ignore the circle. All those individual other features that we might have to put in, I usually wait until the end to kind of find those locations, because it makes it a little easier to draw this whole thing, as you'll see in a moment. So let's go offset again. Oh, enter. 6. That was the dimension I was searching for. I couldn't find. All right. Enter, enter. 40. Up from that. Now, I will point out, though, you don't necessarily have to leave the command. I like to do spacebar because my thumb is always by the spacebar when I run AutoCAD. But you can also pick it, move in the direction you want, and then type the number you want. So I could type 58 like that. Okay. Now I don't like to show that in videos because it confuses people a lot. So let's go back, enter, enter, or spacebar, 58, and then click, and then click. Okay. Now, let's go to actually creating this piece, okay? Now, since this will be hard to visualize if I don't put it side by side, I'm going to go like so, and I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do here, okay? So now that I have all these vertexes and stuff, watch how easy this gets, okay? So I'm going to pick my layer. I'm going to go to my object layer this time, okay? Now I'm just going to create a line, which is just L, enter. Now let's take a look at what we need here. We go, if I have my object snap on, okay, which is this little guy right here, okay, snap to 2D reference points, I can customize what it snaps to as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with the default, because endpoint is always in there as default. I'm going to click, click, click. There's my first corner. I'm going to come over here, click, click. You see, it's kind of like connecting the dots now. All right. And actually, I'm seeing now I actually missed a construction line. So I made this harder on myself. So I'm going to go to right here, and I'm going to hit escape so I can fix this. So I'm going to go offset, And I had to offset one construction line from the top down 42. Okay, so 42. There we go, okay? So now I can create the rest of this, all right? I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to make sure I'm back on that object layer. All right, and I'm going to go back to tracing here. So I'm going to go up here. Let's make this one first. Let's go over here. I'm down to that. There's my first section. Space bar again. All right, now I'm going to come up here. I'm going to go over to the end of the view. Now I don't know how tall this one is, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to hit space bar again. Okay, now the other thing I can do over here, now that I'm seeing this, is I'm going to hit escape. And this line right here actually goes all the way to the top. Okay, I shouldn't make two separate lines there. That's a bad idea. Okay, so I'm going to actually erase. I'm going to hit E-enter. I'm going to erase this line here. I hit enter. Now I'm going to go back in the line, and I'm going to go like so. From here, all the way up to the top, all the way over to here. Okay, and now I'm going to need to use AutoCAD's geometry here to help me out a little bit. So I'm going to turn ortho off right down here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is it says it's 30 degrees downward. Okay, now if I wanted to go to the right, it would be 0. If I wanted to go down, it would be 270. Okay, if I want to go 30 this way, okay, it's really 360 minus, so it's at 330. All right, now there's a couple ways you could do this. You could create an infinite line, all right, at 30 degrees. That's certainly an option. Since I'm already here, though, I'm going to go at, and I'm going to say, well, that's 45. It's definitely longer than 45 because we have a little right triangle hidden in there. But I'm going to go with a number that I think for sure is long enough to cross through this little construction line here. So I'm going to go at, let's say, 60. Okay. And then I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to put a little Pac-Man guy in there. So I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to hit the comma button. I'm going to let go of shift. I'm going to say 330. I'm going to hit enter. Now we can see that crossed all the way through. Now I'm going to hit spacebar again. Click here, go right up to that intersection. And now I have that outside shape. Now there's two other things I could do. Okay, I could grab this line by clicking it and then grabbing this and bringing it back there. That's one quick way to do it. The other way I could do it, if I undo that, is I could go TR for trim. I could select all this stuff. Ooh, they changed it a little bit. And I could get rid of that, like so. Now, this looks confusing, right? Let me show you what we're going to do here. Okay, so let me maximize this again, now that you know what we're doing. And we can go up here, and for construction line, I can turn the layer on or off. Look at that. Now under there, I have my view. Okay, but I'm going to turn it back on because I'm not done with this yet. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my hidden layer because I have a little hidden line hidden behind here. Okay, this bracket sticks out on one end. Okay, and then there's a edge behind it. So I'm going to go to my hidden line. I'm going to go L enter for line. And then I'm going to connect from here over to here. Okay, and then I'll hit escape. And let's see what it looks like. I'll go up here. I'll turn my construction lines off for a second. Look at that. It looks pretty good. Okay, now I also have, now that I'm looking here, I actually have another little hidden line right here. Trick me. Okay, so this line, there's no geometry here unless I want to do a whole bunch of math to figure out where that point is. I'm going to have to wait till I create that top view to project that line downward, okay, which you'll see in a moment, all right? Now, the next thing we're going to do, okay, is we're going to put this circle in, okay, as well as a center line. So for this circle, if I wanted to, I could technically just turn my hidden layer off. I could turn my object layer off, okay, and I could see those a little bit easier. I'm going to leave them on. They don't bother me at all. But I am going to go to my construction layer again. I'm going to say O, enter for offset. And this is 28 from the bottom. So I'm going to hit 28, enter. I'm going to pick this line. I'm going to go upward, click. Okay. Now the other one is 22 from the left. So I'm going to pick this line and 22, enter, That's where my circle goes, okay? Now I'll do that a different way too, just to show you. Spacebar, spacebar. I could type 22. Click, click. Okay? Now, for my circle, I need an object line, right? So I'm going to go back to object line. But let's say you forgot to change it, okay? Because that's a really common thing. You're working with all these layers. Oh, geez, I created this, and it's a hidden line. I really wanted it to be an object line. So I could go circle. I put it in here, and it says the diameter of my circle is 16. It's asking for a radius circle, okay? So that means the radius of this thing is 8. I'm going to hit enter. Now, oh no, this thing is a construction line, right? I want this to be an object line. Simple change, okay? A couple ways I can do it. I could select it. I could go up here. I could go to object. Now it's on the object layer, okay? And you can do that with anything. You can pick any line, and you can go up and switch it to another layer, okay? The other way you could do it is if you double-click it and go into the line properties here, I can hit it by pull down here, so I can switch it this way. Okay, see how it'll switch between all those different ones. Okay, now I have my circle. Well, circle needs some center lines on it for sure, right? So what we can do, all right, is we can create our center lines in a couple different ways. This is the way I usually do it, just because I like to tweak it to make it look just right and stuff like that. So I'm going to go to center line, and I'm going to look and say, okay, I have this line here. That one's about, let's see, if I do a little math, if it's 16 in the middle, 8 over, gives me 14. It's about 4 millimeters off there, okay? So what I usually do is I create some nice construction lines to create them to, and then I erase them after I use it, okay? So if this guy is 16 in diameter, I'm going to go, I don't know, let's say 10 millimeters out from the center in every direction. So I could go O, enter, 10, and I could take all these lines and go, okay, you're going to go there, 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 okay? Hit escape, I'm in center line, L enter. Now it's just a matter of going like this, spacebar, spacebar, go like this, okay? Now I'm going to go E, enter, and I'm going to get rid of all those lines, because those aren't going to be used for anything else other than my center lines. Now if I turn off my construction lines now, you can see my center line's not very clear, okay? So there's two things I could do. I could type in LT scale, line type scale is what that means. My current scale is at a scale factor of 1. I could go to like 0.5. Yep, still can't see it. So I'm going to undo that, make Control Z. And let's try the other option. I go to layer properties, go into center, load, and I'm going to pick the smaller center. Okay, center 2. Hit OK. Pick center 2. Hit OK. Close out. How do we look now? Still doesn't look great. So now let's shrink the scale. LT scale. Half. Now looks like a nice center line. Okay. So it's up to you how you want to tweak it. That's kind of the one of the perks of AutoCAD is you're kind of tweaking things to match what you would like them to look like a little bit. Whereas in parametric modeling, everything's a little more standardized, but that's okay. So turn my construction back on. Now let's work on that top view so I can create that other hidden line I had right down here. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of lines to start off with. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to construction again. I'm going to say O, enter, and I'm going to think about how far apart I want these views. Now, if this overall view is about 58, we'll say 60. Okay. If I want enough space to be able to fit some dimensions in, if I was going to dimension this as well, the option I would probably go with is probably somewhere around like 10 or 20 millimeters space between these. You can always move them afterwards, but you're just trying to plan out a little bit to save yourself a little bit of time. So let's see what 20 looks like. So we'll offset 20, hit enter, pick the line, go up, Looks like it'll probably work. So let's say that's the bottom left corner of my object here. Now the next lines are 16, 42, 54, and then 20 back from that 54. Okay, those are the lines I see right now. Okay, the other thing I do have is I have a depth for this hole, but we'll worry about that afterwards. I don't want to get too many lines where it gets confusing. Okay, so spacebar, spacebar. 16 was the first number. Click, click. Spacebar, spacebar. 42 from the bottom. Ooh, ooh. Spacebar, spacebar. 54 was our total height. Okay, spacebar, spacebar. Next one, 20 downward. Click, click. Okay. Now, I'm going to create this view. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to go up to object, line, and I'm going to create my object lines here. Now, it gets a little confusing. Okay, so you got to really kind of focus on what you're trying to do. All right, but if you notice, all these vertical lines are also going to be my guides for this right here. Okay, for example, the slant is actually created by that line I created before. So your adjacent views are going to share a dimension, just like we learned in CAD. So these adjacent views are actually going to share vertical projection lines. Okay, so let's start from the bottom. Line, upward to the corner, all the way over here. Okay, we go, that's for that line. Actually, you know what? That other line we're going to have to create. So I'm going to spacebar, spacebar. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to go over. I'm going to go up to 16. I'm going to go over to the end of the view. And I'm going to go up to the 20. Okay, now from here, I have another 30-degree line. Okay, but in this time, we have 30 degrees, but it's a slightly different 30 degrees. Now, right would be 180, okay? 180 degrees. Think about a compass here. 0, left would be 180, up would be 90, down would be 270, okay? So 180, but I'm actually going 30 less than 180, so I'm going 150, okay? So I'm going to go at, I know it's not going to need to be this long, but let's say, you know, this is 20 in this height right here. I'm going to say it's not as much as the other one, which was 40 or 60. But let's go at, I don't know, 50. We can always trim it after. Hold shift, hit the comma button, and then we're going to type our 150 in and hit enter. There's our angle. Okay, that's going to help us project that line down after. Now I'm going to hit spacebar, spacebar, and I'm going to create a line that goes from that corner so from here all the way over to here. Click, spacebar, click this guy, drag it right back. I'm going to zoom in so I don't hit that little grip there. These are called grips. Okay, hit escape. Okay, now, a couple things. This helps me put in a couple other lines. So first, let's put the line in for that edge. Say L, enter. We need a line right here. Spacebar, okay, or escape. Now, I need to project this line down for a hidden line. Simple to do, okay? We're going to go back into construction. We're going to go X line, enter. Now we're going to create a line that goes straight down vertically. Okay, click. Escape. Now we're going to switch to hidden because in my view, if you notice, it is a hidden line. So we're going to go to hidden, L, enter, and I'm going to create a hidden line right down here. Okay, and hit escape to get out of there. All right, now my view is starting to come together. Let me turn off the construction just to show you. My bottom view is done entirely. It has everything I need on it. My top view, almost there. It's getting there. Okay. Now let's go to turn our construction line back off. Lost my train of thought for a second there. And then we're going to project some other lines up. Okay, so I'm going to go to my hidden layer. So as you can see, the other lines I need to create over here are all hidden. All right, and now I'm going to go L, enter, and I'm going to create those other hidden lines. So this one goes from here up to, ooh, I see a problem I made. Okay, let's go back. Let's erase some stuff. Because what I actually did, my 20 line, I thought that looked a little off, is actually supposed to start from here. This is my 20 down. You can see the more construction lines you create, the more you can get confused, but you got to take a little bit of time to kind of think about what things are going to look like. So I'm going to erase that. I'm going to erase this little hidden line. I'm going to erase this construction line, and I'm going to redo what I did. Okay? So I'm going to go to object line. See, everybody makes mistakes. It's okay. Part of these videos is if I make a mistake while I'm recording a video that maybe I didn't make in planning the video, whatever. Okay? It's one more opportunity for me to teach you something. Okay? So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to erase those other lines. I'm going to click here. I'm going to do the same thing I did. At 60 long, shift, comma. That gives me my little Pac-Man up there. I call him Pac-Man. I know it's technically a less than sign. And I'm going to go 150, right? Because we're 30 less than that 180. That looks a lot better. Okay? Now, let's do some trimming. TR. Let's trim this line away. Let's trim this line away. Trim that. They changed the trim command in 2021 for sure. Now let's go back to do what I was doing before. It's all part of my plan. Don't worry. Not really, but don't tell anyone. I won't tell anyone. We're going to offset that down. Okay. I just turned my ortho on so it was vertical. Turn it back off. I don't need it now. Okay. Now go to my hidden line. L, enter. That looks way better. Way better. Okay. Now we look like we got something. All right. So now, while I'm on my hidden line, let's trace those other things I was talking about. So I'm going to go up, click. I've used CAD programs for a very long time, and I still make mistakes that I can learn things from. It's not a big deal to make a mistake. It's another opportunity to learn something. And then next time you do it, maybe you don't make the mistake, maybe you do, but either way, you know how to fix it if you do. All right, so now we got to project this line up for those edges. Looks like that goes all the way back on that block. Spacebar, spacebar. Up there, spacebar. What else we got? Now we need to put this circle in. Okay, a little drill tip. That's going to go up here. All right, now, a couple things. There is some information that's missing from this drawing to create this drill tip. However, being that I have lots of years of design experience, I know that your average drill tip is about 118 degrees, one of those numbers that sticks in your head. If you made it 120, I bet no one would ever notice. But if you want to be accurate, we're going to make it 118, okay? So here's how I usually put in a drill, okay, to actually show the side that shows the depth of the drill as opposed to the shape. Okay, so here's what I do. I go to construction line. And there's a reason I didn't do this at the beginning, because as you'll see, this is going to get really messy with all the construction lines. We're going to end up in that top view. So we'll go X line. And because I created my center lines so nicely where they extend beyond, I can use them for construction projections. Spacebar, spacebar, do it over here as well. We're going to have to turn on my ortho. Didn't want to work with me that time. That's okay. I don't take offense. Spacebar. And we're going to O, enter for offset. Now this isn't formatted correctly. It's okay. It might be from a little bit older book, different standard. This depth is supposed to be right over here. So this says that it's 22 deep. Okay, some ISO standards do allow you to put it at the end there, but it should be in between here by the standards we use these days, but that's okay. I won't tell anybody. So it says it's 22 deep, so I'm going to go 22, enter. I'm going to pick this line, I'm going to move up. There's the end of my flat part of my drill. Okay, now let's put the drill in. So I'll hit escape. I'm going to go to hidden. I'm going to go to line, L, enter. I'm going to click here, up, over, click, down, click. Okay, I've got that. Now I'm going to hit spacebar again. Now we're going to put in that crazy number. Okay, and just to put it in perspective, okay, so if we're going 118, half of 118 would be 59 degrees, because half of 120 would be 60. We have 2 less degrees. Okay, so this is a little bit confusing in the way that it has to go. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you is that there's an easy way to do this, or you can just kind of like draw it in at 2 different 20-degree angles. Okay, so a lot of people will just go like this. Let me turn my ortho off, and we're going to say, all right, we want 20 here, so it's going to be 160. Okay, but if we actually want, and the way I figure that out is 60 degrees, excuse me, or 120 degrees here would be 60-degree angles on each side. These are 59-degree angles on each side. All right, so here's what you can do. Let's put it in at 20 to make it easy. At, okay, and we'll go, how wide is this thing? 16. All right, so let's go 10. Hold shift, comma, 160. Hit enter. There's half of my drill bit. Spacebar, spacebar. Now I can just pick this one, and I can zoom in and go right to where it crosses that center line. All right, and now I can just click this one, drag it back, click. All right, now if I turn off my construction lines, look at that. We have our drill bit. Okay. Now the other thing I will mention to everybody, because people do this all the time and it's technically not right, you should not have a center line on any object that is not an object line. Okay, so for example, this has a center line down here, this circle, because I'm using this circle to dimension, because I can dimension object lines. You can't dimension to hidden lines. All right, if you will need to dimension to hidden lines, it means you need another view. Okay, so in that case, there should not be a center line going down this, because all you're doing for your manufacturer is you're giving one more thing for them to be searching around for a dimension, when in reality, if I dimension the thing I have right now, it's going to draw their attention right here, right away. Okay, they don't care about this. This is just to show you what it would look like if I had X-ray vision. Okay, now the next thing we need to do, I'm going to turn on my construction line. This is the toughest part of this whole project. We need to create, okay, the view on this side over here, this right side. As you can see, the person who sent me this, the object of the assignment is to create the view here as well as these other 2 views, and you don't get any hints. Oh no. Okay, don't worry, I'm going to help you out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the other dimensions, all right, in a really fancy little 45-degree miter projection that they used to use on drafting boards. Okay, now I didn't have to draw things on drafting boards, but I appreciate the way that they did them, and it helps you be more successful if you understand it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit escape. We're going to switch to our construction line. We're going to hit O, enter for offset, and we're going to offset that line over to start our next view 20 away again. So let's go 20. Let's pick this line, let's move it over. Now the other dimensions I have, okay, I can actually project down with a 45-degree miter line, okay? Now there's 2 ways we could do this. You could create it with a construction line. So I could go X line, I could click here, okay, and I could say at, I don't know, 20, 45. And that creates a nice 45-degree angle for me. The other thing you can do is you can put an object line in there. I don't usually do that, but that is something that people used to do back in the day. Now, the other way you could do it, because I'm going to undo this, I don't like that it crosses through all my views. So I'm going to create a normal line. I'm going to pick right here, and I'm going to go at, oops, sorry, I'm going to start at the bottom of my view, sorry. Line, right down here, see this is the bottom of the view? I'm going to go from here, I'm going to go at, I don't know, 100, hold shift, comma, that gives me my little less than sign, 45 degrees. There's my line. The only other thing I would do is I would pick this, drag it back. It's right there. Okay, there's my miter line. Now here's where the miter line is incredible. Okay, I can now use this line to project all of these horizontal lines. Let me show you what I mean. Now if I go back into X line here and I project this line down, it is going to be equal to the full width of my view. The reason being is that my miter line crosses through at the intersection with the full height of my view. Okay? Let me prove that to you. Okay? If I hit O enter and I offset the full height of my view, which is 54, and I offset this over, look at that. 54 lines up perfectly with the end of that line. Okay? So I don't need to retype it in and figure out what dimensions I have and whatever. I just have to go through here and look at every place that it intersects and project a vertical line down. Okay, so spacebar, spacebar. Let's come in here and do that. Vertical line. Oop, sorry, I wasn't in my X line. X line. Start here, vertical line down. I'm going to turn my ortho on. Click. Spacebar, spacebar. Click, move down. Click, spacebar, spacebar, click, move down, click, spacebar, spacebar, click, move down, click. Now I have all the lines that I need, okay? However, the thing that's a little bit tricky here is that it's going to be a bit of a challenge to figure out exactly what this view looks like, okay? So what I might recommend you do is maybe not project all these lines down at once. Okay, instead, project the lines down gradually, but that's up to you, okay, if that's what you want to do. Now let's take a look at our views here. Let's try to figure out what this thing looks like, okay? So I have a piece here. It looks like that piece extends all the way across to about here. All right, so that line is the end of this little blocked area. Okay, and it looks like this bottom section of the block goes all the way to the end, as I can see by those hidden lines. Now, the other thing that's real tricky here is we have a couple angles. Okay, so if I'm looking at the other side, this angle is going to project a straight line, okay, all the way across. I might have to trim it depending. But if I look up here, okay, at the top, this line is slanting down, and then there's actually a slanted line on the back side of it as well, okay? So I think the safe way to do this is we create all the lines that we are super confident about. So the bottom, right, we're confident about this edge here. We can see it goes all the way across, all right? But it does stop, okay, it does stop right at that intersection there, okay? That's what that edge is. It stops right here, this little intersection where it sticks down. Okay, we'll worry about the tricky stuff, all the angles and stuff at the end. And the hole, we're going to wait all the way till the end for the draft of the hole. Okay, so back to confusion. We turn on our construction lines again. We're going to go L, enter. I'm going to start. I'm just going to create an overall outside of this thing. So if I look at this, this little bottom part only goes back to here, which means if I follow that line over and this intersection down, goes to right there. Okay? So let's do that. Let's go from here over to here. Oop, sorry, hit escape. Got to switch to object line. L, enter. Go over to here. Now this one goes up to here. This goes over to here. We'll go up to the corner here. We'll come all the way back. We'll come all the way down. Spacebar, spacebar. Now, I also have a line here that goes across from that little corner there. Now let's work our way up. This thing sticks out here, but this is interesting. I see a line that we missed on the top now that I'm looking at the view. So let's fix that line. Let's pick this one, drag that all the way across. That makes much more sense. Okay? So what this one actually does is we can erase these two. And what this one actually does is this comes up to the top of here. And then it comes over to here, and then back up, yep, and then over. Okay. Now, this sticks out here, sticks out at the bottom. So it looks like this next portion is going to come down and over like this. If it doesn't, we will figure it out in a moment. Like this, like this. And actually what I'm going to do, instead of going all the way over, I'm going to hit escape. I'm just going to grab this one. Drag it all the way over. It's a tricky view. It's a good part. So then we have, let's see where else we have. We have an edge here that goes all the way down. And that one, if I travel over, it comes from right here. So that's going to be a line that comes straight down from here. And then what else do we have? Would have been better if I got rid of some of these lines from the drill bit here, but that's okay. I've got a line down there. We also have an edge that needs to project over from here. This comes all the way down. I see what's going on here. Okay, so let's create another construction line. Let's take this line, let's project it over. Oh no, messed up. Next line, we'll go from here. Oh, that's alright, I'll just switch it. Escape. Switch it to a construction. And this line is going to come right across, and I'm going to have to think a little bit here how this is going to go. Now, if I turn off my construction lines, that'll unconfuse me. We have an angle right here. So this piece, this edge here, is moving back from this edge. Okay, so that's slanted. This edge here has a line that's coming across from right here, which means, how's that going to look? Got to figure out which way that's going to go. Which means I end up with a small piece on the bottom left here. This edge is only going to come down partially where they intersect right here. Hard to see with all the construction lines, as you can tell. Let's go back to that. We're going to put our hole in first. It'll be easy. Okay, so let's go to hidden line, or no, sorry, construction line. Let's tackle that actually. They're going to overlap, so it's going to be a little confusing. So this piece sticks out. That means that's coming down. That's coming over. So right about here is where I have to project the little construction line across. Construction. Next line. Go from here. I went to construction. That's going to come over. Are there any other edges I didn't project? Might be confusing things a little bit. Don't think so. So what I see then is I'm going to go to Object, L, Enter. I'm going to put my line across here. And then I'm going to turn my construction lines off. Or actually, why don't I just get all of it done? Let's go construction. Let's get the circle line. So let's go X line. Send that over. Send this one over. Of course it's got to be that. Problem is if it snaps onto something, it's going to get real upset with you. It's coming over here. This is coming down here. Okay, so here's my line for that. All right, so let me trace that out. That'll let me get rid of all my constructions. So I'll go from here. This comes in. L, Enter. You can see sometimes I get a little confused on stuff. That's okay. L, Enter. Go from here. Come over to right down here. Down to here. And then back over. All right. Now let's turn off some constructions. Let's figure out what this does. All right, so we have an angle that's coming down the full way this way. Okay, so this angle is slanting. There's a slant coming down to here. Okay, now within that slant, we have another slant that is coming over from here in this direction. So I believe the way this is going to look is we're going to end up with two different areas. So a flat area here and a flat area here, both of which are on this side. So if we trim this, forgot they changed the trim. It's going to look like this. Do I agree with that? I think I do. Oh, no, I don't. This is going to go to Yes. Yeah. So it's going to trim that away. Going to trim that away. Going to trim that away. That's what that's going to look like. Okay. Ooh, took me a second for that one. All right. Now the last thing I have here is I just need to create my little drill tip. I'm going to go align, enter. I'm going to start here. I'm going to go at 10, hold shift, comma. And let's see, we want 20, 270 would be down. So we want 290, I believe. Yeah, look at that. Start from the other side. Should probably project my, I'll just do the same thing and I'll trim it. So let's go line, boom, at 10. And this time we're going to go 90, so we'll go 70. And then I just trim these. Click, click, and we're done. So, it's a long video. However, that's what you should end up with to create that part.